Hey everyone, welcome to this week's painting. I am Dawn Marie with Sign Parties 101 and sunrisemarie.com, and I am here today to paint a Hello Fall sign. Now, some of you guys saw this posted yesterday. So adorable, but today I think I'm going to try some different colors. I have more like fall colors here, and I'm going to try to do the leaves a little more fallish. I am such a sucker for neutrals, and so I loved this one because it's going in my home. And I did a little bit of like a fall leaf on these, but obviously they're more green than fall colored. And so we're gonna try, I'm gonna do this like a burnt orange for most of it, and then add in some other reds and oranges and yellows and kind of just play with it and see where I end up. So hopefully you are doing well. Hey Shauna, miss you girl. Okay, so let's get started. So I am a huge fan of baby wipes. So the background is going to be painted with a baby wipe. And if you have not done the baby wipe method, you should start, because it's literally so easy and so fast. Now this has some scored lines on it just so you can follow, and when we glue these down, we can easily line them up. Because people that know me know I do not like to measure, and so these lines help with that just a little bit. So I'm going to cover up these ends because I think I'm going to do white in the middle and then black on the ends. The other one was brown in the middle, and this one I think I'm going to try white. So we'll see how it ends up. And then after this video, I will get this file listed to the Sign Parties 101 website if anybody wants to grab it. It makes for a super cute kit as well. All right, so because these are just here to line the letters up, I'm not gonna worry about painting over them because I'm still gonna be able to see, you know, a little bit of them. So we're just gonna grab the baby wipe and some paint and wipe it across the board. Now, normally, if you want your scored lines to continue to show, you would take a toothpick or a weeding tool and scrape out those scored lines. But like I said, this is not going to matter because it's there just to help me line up the letters. So I'm going to let that dry a quick minute and before we do the second coat. So I'm just going to set it aside and start working on my next pieces. I have decided that I want the pieces black. So I'm gonna get my black paint and use a sponge for that. Oh, come on. I was a little bit hesitant to start this video because my husband is using the saw out in the garage. So if it gets noisy for a second, I apologize. All right, so with this, you just kind of dab it on. The nice thing about using black, if you have 3D letters, is that it doesn't show on the sides if you use the laser to cut them out, because the sides are dark. And so with black, you don't have to be as careful. The one that I did yesterday, those are white letters, and so I had to be a little bit more careful when I was painting to not get paint on the edge of my letters. So my favorite is using black because then I don't have to be as careful. And if you guys haven't checked out these sponges yet, go back and watch my favorite Friday thing from a couple weeks ago. You can find them all on my Facebook page or also YouTube channel. They are seriously the best sponges ever. I love them. Okay, so usually with black, I don't necessarily have to go over with a second coat. especially if you use like folk art, which is a little bit thicker. But I'm just gonna make sure they're all covered well so I don't have to go back. They all look pretty good, honestly. Black covers pretty well. Okay, so I'm gonna set those guys aside. And now my white is dry, and so I'm gonna go back and do a second coat. Try not to get hair all over your board. It's so crazy to me every time I do this and every time I do a second coat, how much difference that second coat makes. Look at that. It just really makes it bright and stand out. Even if you're doing stencils, a second coat on your stenciling is going to make all the difference. So if you're not doing a second coat, do that as well. I'll probably end up distressing this a little bit too, because that's my jam. So I am not looking for perfection. Just a nice coat. All right, so there's that. I'm gonna take the tape off. And once that white paint is dry, I'm gonna set the tape over it so we can do the black on the end. All right, so now for these guys. So I think I'm gonna start off with this like brownish burnt orange. It's called Chestnut. I love, love, love it for a fall color. I'm gonna take a new wipe. Now you could totally use a sponge for these. They're not that big, but a baby wipe just goes so much faster. So I'm just gonna wipe it. I like starting in the middle and carrying out this way so I don't get any paint on those edges. Okay, look at how fast that was. First coat done. Depending on how dark you want it, you can do a second coat or you cannot do a second coat. It's totally up to you. I probably will. I just like the vibrancy a second coat brings. But look at that. Is that not like a perfect, that's like a perfect fall color. So this color that I'm using is Chestnut. It's actually Apple Barrel, but I love it for fall. So my white's almost dry. But because we were using such a thin coat, I'm just gonna go do a second coat already right now with the Chestnut. I'm gonna go over this a little bit with some other colors as well. If you wanted the lines in your leaves to stand out, make sure you get a little weeding tool or a toothpick, and all you do with that is you take it and you run it right down the lines, and then it removes the paint that's in there. So I think mostly they're fine though on mine, so I'm just gonna leave them. All right, now I'm going to add a little bit of red to the middle of these leaves, and I'm gonna see what it looks like. The nice thing about acrylic paint and painting like this is that if you don't like it, you can always go back and just paint right over it. So don't be afraid to try something new or different. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna use the white. It works better when it's a little bit wet. So I'm gonna use the wipe. So that brightened up the middle of the leaf. I took a walk earlier with my daughter and I was inspired by some of the leaves out there. Okay, so see how that added a little bit to the inside? I'm gonna get a little bit more red and add it right to the middle to really kind of accentuate that middle a little bit. And then what I think I'm gonna do is take a little bit of yellow and go right on the edges. Just dab it on and dab it off. Oops. I just want to highlight the tips of the leaves a little bit. And then once you have your base, you can kind of just play from there. But I don't know. If I ever saw a fall leaf, that's pretty much what those maple leaves look like out there. And then again, you can always go back and you're like, oh, I want a little bit more red here or a little bit more brown there. And just totally play with it until you get exactly what you're going for. And that was kind of exactly what I was going for. So I'm going to leave it like that. Then I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to the tips of this as well. Again, I'm just trying to highlight those edges just a little bit. Actually, it's more of a gold. King's Gold by Apple Barrel is what I use, or what I'm using. Okay, so you just made it highlighted a little bit, and then I'm going to go back again with some red in the center. Follow the veins a little bit, and then blend in. Just like that. Okay, so now we're gonna set those aside. Sometimes, depending on how much paint you use, it can look a little bit different once the paint dries. So set it aside. You can always come back to it and see how you like it in a few minutes. So, all right, so since this is dry, I'm gonna take my tape again, put it on the opposite side so I can paint the top and the bottom black. All right, I am going to use a baby wipe for these as well. Maybe I have enough. Dip it in your paint and wipe it on. I kind of like the one coat for the black because it still shows a little bit of the board through there, and I love that look because it's a little bit distressed. So I think I might just leave it with the one coat, but we'll see. All right. Maybe I'll add just a tiny bit more. I like the distressed look, but I don't want it to look unfinished. So to me, there's kind of a fine balance. And I am also notorious for getting black paint from my fingers onto my white project. So if you're anything like me, you're gonna wanna take a heads up about that. Make sure your black paint is all off your fingers before you touch your white. Okay. So now we can take the tape off. And what I like to do is lay everything on the board, how I want it to look, before I glue it down, so I'm going to place my letters on first. Except I do think I want to distress that white a little bit. And then the leaves. And that is going to be my sign. I think I'm going to distress the back of the white just a bit, because that's me. So I'm going to do that quick before I glue it down. Now to distress, I'm just going to take the baby wipe that I was using and just lightly go over the white. So it's not so stark white. Now I'll take a clean side of my wipe and blend it. Okay, that softened it up. It's a little more of a light gray, but I love that. Okay. And bring some of that gray into the bottom and the top. Okay, now we can glue down. Oh, my Loctite is almost gone. So I'm going to see if it'll last for these letters. This is my favorite glue if I'm doing something for myself. For kits or parties, I do not use this. It's way too strong, like not forgiving. And so for parties and kits and stuff, well, for a lot of the kits, I use a super glue from the Dollar Tree. And then for parties, I just use a wood glue. Either regular wood glue or a super wood glue. All right. Looks like I will have just enough. It's so helpful with those lines, especially for people like me. Don't like to measure. Okay. So I always love seeing the same sign with different colors, because it really shows you that just by changing a couple things up, you can get a whole new feel for a sign. And I'm going to show you the final of this one compared to the one I did yesterday. By just changing up some colors. All right, so I know it's backwards for you guys, but there's the one from today, and there's the one from yesterday. Same sign, just a little bit different colors. Ta-da! All right, so if you guys are a maker and you want to order either blanks or the file, I will have them on signparties101.com shortly. So thanks for joining me, you guys, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon. Bye.